Hello YouTubers, Josh running from FutureMorphs here with an English speaking video because I got quite some questions about my incubators. I posted them on Facebook, so I decided to make an incubator video. I did it before in Dutch, so if you only speak Dutch, then just search for broedstoof or something like that in my channel. But let's talk all about how I make my incubators. So, I made these incubators myself and for two reasons. Because they perfectly fit this little niche. Well, afterwards I had too many babies, so I had to put a baby rack here. But yeah, basically I built a wooden terrarium. So it is just melamine wood, like the plastified pressed wood basically. Like 18 millimeters. And I just screwed it together. And it has sliding glass doors, just like a terrarium. So basically it's pretty simple to make. And as heating, as you can see, I have a heat cable here. I think it's a 100-watt heat cable. And I don't know the exact measurements anymore. I think it's about 80 centimeters by 45 and 50 high or something like that. But I made it so that, as you can see, I used the 3-liter Braplas boxes to put the eggs in. So I can fit 2 behind each other. And 5 high. So in theory you would think like, oh, 10, 20, 30, 40, but I will show you. It's not exactly 40, it's 38, because afterwards I found out I wanted to install a little fan. So that's there as well. It is from, I think, a Lucky Reptile, and at least they had, when I made this, they had a set with just one sort of an adapter with 3 fans attached to it. So that's just blowing 24/7 basically. It doesn't blow that hard, but enough so at least the air circulates a little bit. But of course, if it's full of boxes, you won't get a lot of air circulation. So definitely in the back, it's warmer than in the front. And for heating, as you can see, I just use a thermostat. Well, this is a Hobbystat. One Hobbystat broke, so I also took another one. But yeah, it's just a matter of measuring, because, well, this one, as you can see, is set at just over 26, but it is warmer inside. So yeah, it's just a matter of finding out how warm you have to set it to get it warm enough inside. I incubate basically around 27 to 27.5 degrees Celsius. Another thing to think of, because it's not super insulated, like a lot of incubators that you find like are either really thick, or styrofoam or an old fridge. I used to use a Coca-Cola fridge myself as well. But this room is pretty warm. Even at the moment, as you can see, I have no babies here. 0 babies at the moment. But still it is 24.3 degrees in here. So the incubator only has to heat up the room. Well, the incubator is just about 3 degrees. So I don't think this will work really well if you would have like a room that is just 18 degrees or whatever, because then you have a 10-degree difference. And well, you could make it, you could put a lot of wattage of cable in there, but if you have too much heat, then it heats up really quick and then goes down. So that's also not the nicest. Looking back, I maybe would have even used a little smaller cable, like 80 watts or something. That might have been a little better. Although you can also put a dimmer, of course, on a heat cable like this. So heating wise, it's just, you just have to play with it a little bit. The next question I got quite a lot is how do you incubate the eggs? Because do you use lids, or is it dry, or well, as you can see, the incubators itself are really dry. Like there's no water or something. So it's really just a dry terrarium, but I use wet vermiculite in the Braplas boxes. Well, first I will show you how I set up an egg box. So I will take 1.3 liter Braplas like this and just scoop it full of vermiculite, and I will put it in here. And I use lids without the perforated holes. So most of the times they have like these cut out, but these are totally sealed. Of course, it's not an airtight seal. Braplas, they are nice boxes, but yeah, it's never a 100% airtight seal. So a little bit of air might get in during incubation. Of course, I also put in about 220 milliliters of water or something as well. So yeah, that's how I mix it. And then people ask, yeah, but there's no fresh air. No, true, there's no fresh air. Is it needed? No. Well, most of the time, oh, that's really far zoomed out. Most of the time, people are really afraid of, well, two things that you don't have to worry about too much. And that is fresh air. So maybe if you know ball python breeders, they usually have bigger boxes, of course, because the eggs are bigger. But they really use like, what's it called? Like the plastic foil to tape up boxes. So there's really no air coming in and out. So is fresh air important? Well, yes, maybe. There is some... if you have eggs incubating, there is of course a little bit of, how would you say, O2 and CO2, like, I don't know, what is it in English, like oxygen and carbon dioxide, I guess, like, yeah, going in and out of the egg. But yeah, maybe like, probably I open these boxes 1, 2 or 3 times during incubation. Let's say 2 on average. And I just do that a little bit like this, and sometimes I add some water. So as you can see, this is a pretty fresh box. But well, so is fresh air important? No, not really. If you have a ball python egg for 55 days, that's totally sealed up. If that has enough oxygen, then definitely quite a big box like this, it also works well. You can also use smaller boxes, of course, to incubate smaller clutches, but I don't like it. I like the bigger boxes because you have more vermiculite in there. So that means you also have more moisture in there and also more oxygen already in there. So I don't like really small boxes where the eggs are really tight. Even the 3-liter boxes, if you have like a clutch of 25 or 30 eggs, it's almost a little too small. It works, it goes well, but feeling wise, I would like to have a little bigger box. But yeah, that's why I use a little bigger boxes than it's really needed. So even if I just get a clutch of like 10 eggs, I will put them in this box and not in a small box. What I also do, because that's the next question, people ask like, oh yeah, oxygen is one. The second question, is, oh, is there no moisture, like no water drops falling on the eggs? Because these are all just standing flat. It's not at an angle, so the water goes off or something. And the answer is twofold. No, because, well, maybe yes, but as you can see, I put moss on top of the eggs. So... yeah, the moss stays a little moist, of course, but yeah, the moss touches the top of the lids. So even if you get some water drops on there, the moss will absorb it. So that really helps. I also have the idea that the eggs dry out a little less quick with the moss on top, especially the eggs that are not totally in the vermiculite but a little higher up. Because I always leave the eggs in a clump. I don't separate the eggs if I don't have to. So if it fits in a box like this, then I just leave it like that. Even if a water drop touches an egg or drops on an egg, don't freak out. It's not that bad. I know that you read on the internet, especially when I also started yeah, years and years ago, well, decades ago, literally. People said, oh, if a water drop comes on the egg, then the egg will rot and mold and the embryo will drown. It's not the case, don't worry. Of course, eggs should not be wet. They should not be laying in water, or if constantly water is on there, yeah, that's not maybe healthy. But don't worry if one drop of water gets on your egg. So you could place them a little like diagonal, so if you have water drops that they will drop down like that, but don't worry about it too much at least. What else then? Oh yeah, also yeah, a little bit like I said before, so I do open the boxes once or twice during incubation, but it's more for checking and adding water, so instead of for fresh air. So also people sometimes really go crazy that there are no air holes in here. Well, you can. The upside, so the good thing is if you have 1 or 2 or 10, whatever you want, if you have air holes in there, the good thing is, yes, you have more fresh air. The downside is you have more humidity getting out. And for the eggs, it's way more hurtful to be in low humidity or even becoming too dry. Then the embryo will die off quicker than compared to not enough oxygen. So, of course, you want to have it ideal. So you want to have fresh oxygen, but also high humidity. But if you have to choose between one of the two, then I rather say, well, no air holes and just keep it tight. So the humidity will stay high, and maybe the fresh air is a little lower than the other way around, because a dry egg or dry substrate will definitely fuck up your eggs, mess up your eggs. Sorry for everybody who is under 18. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. If you want to have air holes because it makes you feel better, then definitely do, but then also make sure you keep checking the vermiculite and maybe adding water to the vermiculite. And people also ask that sometimes. I will tell as well. I'm an open book. So if I want to add water, I just have some syringes. This is a really big one, 60 milliliter. But I also have a smaller one. But yeah, this doesn't really help anything. But yeah, I would just say, I will just, there's no water in here. I will just pretend. It's all fake on the internet anyway. So yeah, I will just fill this up with water. And then if the eggs would be here in the middle, so let's say here are eggs. So I will just go around the edges to add some water. Because the vermiculite, even if you add all the water here, eventually it will go anywhere. Because it basically acts like little sponges. But yeah, if you move it around a little bit, then it goes quicker, of course. So if you want to add water, don't do it on top of the eggs, of course. That's not needed. Just go around it. And also with the moss, even the moss can get a little damp. But wet moss on top of your eggs also doesn't do anything to your eggs. So, well, I hope that's all. Oh, last question maybe. So, at around the 27 to 27.5 degree Celsius, it takes about 65 to 70 days to hatch. Like I said, in the back of the incubator, it's a little warmer, so they may hatch a little quicker than the ones in the front. I used to incubate at about 28 or 28.5 degrees Celsius. That also go perfectly well, but the downside is if you get like a heat wave outside, then this room can also become pretty warm, because at the moment outside is not warm at all, and well, we are at 24.5. So if the entire room would become like 28 or 29 degrees, I do have a mobile air conditioning and stuff, but yeah, I'd rather incubate a little lower, and then they can handle 1 or 2 heat spikes a little better than if you are already incubating sort of at the height of the temperature, and then you would get a heat spike. So even if you would incubate at 24 or 25 degrees Celsius, these eggs will hatch. It will just take longer. So also, yeah, the 28 degrees Celsius that you usually use, it's okay, it definitely works, but it's not needed per se. A little lower is no problem. For instance, well, this one says 27.2 at the moment. Well, this one is difficult to read. Well, it says only 24.5 or so, but definitely don't trust these ones. This one says 28.1, but that one says 27.4. So, what else do we have here? 27 and 0.1. So, yeah. And it's also not a problem if the temperatures go a little bit like this, like up and down. It doesn't have to be totally straight. What else? Well, speaking about drying out, the little fans, like I said, they blow softly, but don't use really big fans, because if the wind of the air is constantly going like around the eggs, especially if you have air holes, you can basically just see the vermiculite drying out, because then it goes way quicker, of course. So, well, I guess that was it. Well, I also have them on little paws, but that's just for easy access and for storing stuff. And well, you could also make one really big one, but this is a little bit more easy to build and to maneuver. And also, if you just need one incubator, then it's easier to heat this than if you would have one really big one. I hope that answers all your questions. If not, then leave a comment below, of course. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.